In at number 10, Noah Cyrus. Noah is the younger sister of massive star Miley Cyrus, as well as the daughter of Billy Ray Cyrus. And of course, growing up in someone's shadow is never easy, and my heart goes out to her for that. But after years of trying to branch out into a successful solo career apart from her sister, it hasn't really been successful. And it might be time for her to realize that not many people know her apart from being Miley's younger sister. She talked about growing up in Miley's shadow in one interview, saying, quote, "Being born in the family I was in, everybody gave me such a hard time for having a hard time being Miley's little sister. But I always felt like I was the person that no one gave a about due to what people said about me online." And I know it can be really hard to be your own person when you have an ultra famous sibling. However, getting into music where Miley and her father had already been successful was probably not a great idea if she wanted to become recognizable in her own right. And at number 9, Jonathan Cheban. Jonathan Cheban is a publicist by trade, but is known for being a socialite and influencer who is BFF with the Kardashians. He makes regular appearances on the show and is a notable character at this point in the series. But other than being famous by association, he was never really famous for anything on his own merit. He recently decided to become food god and made his Instagram an eating blog, but he's had moderate success. But honestly, I will say that I do like him on the show, and he does add a bit of spice to the show, every now and then when it needs it, especially in the Miami days. He was like the best when they were in Miami. I'll say that about him. And at number 8, Jessie J. Jessie J was huge in the 2010s, and her powerhouse vocals and songwriting abilities made her really successful in that time. She even collabed with Ariana Grande and Nicki Minaj on the hit song Bang Bang. But over the years, each of her albums have gone on to sell less and less, and she's become less relevant in the industry. The only time that I really heard any news about her was when she started dating Channing Tatum. But since they decided to split in 2020, I really haven't heard much news about her since. And I don't think that she'll be making a comeback anytime soon.
Coming in at number 7, J.K. Rowling. This one might be a little controversial because it's J.K., and as the queen of Harry Potter, she may not completely lose her fame, but she's definitely on her way to losing credibility. Recently, she's come under fire for allegedly being transphobic and speaking out about her transphobic views. The criticism she's been receiving lately have been coming from all sides, between the Harry Potter cast and general fans. The comments that J.K. has been making about trans issues have seen people coming back to bite her. So many people are losing respect for the famous author that some fans are even getting their Harry Potter tattoos removed because they no longer support her. A large portion of the fan base identifies with the character of Harry Potter because of how his story shows the growth of finding acceptance in a community that supports them, much like the LGBT community. Since JK is now coming out with her take on trans issues, this is turning out to be her downfall, as a large portion of the fandom has now lost faith and are pulling their support. JK might not be famous for too much longer at this rate.
And at number 6, Tekashi 6ix9ine. Tekashi 6ix9ine became a huge star overnight and leveraged his unique and frequently mocked look with bright hair and face tattoos to become a big name in rap. He also had commercial success too, with 3 of his singles hitting the Billboard Hot 100, and his music videos get ridiculous views. However, many have accused him of buying bots to get those views. But his fall has been just as fast as his rise, and after he was sent to prison for snitching, as well as being accused of sexual crimes, even his fans are a bit tired of him, and he seems to be fading into irrelevancy very fast.
Halfway number 5, Ray J. I don't know about you guys, but when I hear the name Ray J, the only thing I think of is Kim Kardashian. And I feel like a lot of people think the same way. And I think it's safe to say the only reason Ray J is relevant in the slightest is because of their tape. And after the tape, Kim K and her family have gone on to become some of the most famous people in the world, while Ray J went into obscurity. Ray J was in the Sharknado franchise, which isn't all that impressive, and his music was somewhat successful. And it seems the only way he gets back into the headlines is by bringing up Kim's name. And the last time he had any sort of relevancy, he was on Celebrity Big Brother talking about how Kim cheated on him. So I don't know, I think he maybe just needs to get out of the spotlight for his own good.
And at number 4, Paris Hilton. So this one might be a bit controversial, but if it wasn't for her recent documentary that brought her back into mainstream attention, it would be hard to argue that she still has the pull that she once had. Paris is obviously an icon that started the influencer lifestyle back when she was starring in hit reality TV shows. So don't take this as me disrespecting her career. But as the years went on and regular people were becoming more sought after influencers than her, she changed directions, focusing more on business endeavors and DJing. When her documentary was released on YouTube in 2020, it got tons of attention as people were dying to see what she had hidden behind the curtains. But since the hype of the documentary has died down, so has the attention surrounding her. which is evident from the fact that her YouTube channel only has 1 million subscribers.
At number 3, Tana Mongeau. YouTuber Tana Mongeau is somehow always involved in some sort of scandal. Most recently, we've seen Tana face backlash for her alleged treatment of fellow YouTubers Kaylin Berry and Nessa Briella, as well as her racist past. Much like Shane, she's been faced with similar scandals in the past, and she's lost some of her following because of it. Now again, following the Black Lives Matter movement, and really just the societal shift and focus on discrimination, people are really vigilant of the action and treatment of others. So do I think that we could see Tana's fame fade? Yes, but also no. She's so big on the platform that it would probably take more serious cancellations for her to really feel its effects, because right now, following her last controversy, she seems pretty unbothered by it. But if she continues to get such bold criticism, she could end up losing much of her fan base and fade away.
And at number 2, Rita Ora. Honestly, I'm still not sure why Rita Ora was ever considered famous in the first place, but other than the fact that she paid a restaurant to have a COVID party recently, she's pretty irrelevant in the media and the music business. She was a success in the Europe/UK market many years ago, but it didn't really translate over to the US market. Her success at one point was so lukewarm that she was actually dropped by her label too. Ora refuses to bow out and is trying really hard to keep her career afloat, but other than having famous friends, she really doesn't have much on her resume. And finally at number 1, the Olsen Twins. The world best knows the Olsen Twins from their child stardom days, and with the rise of their talented sister, Elizabeth Olsen, it's become clearer than ever that the Olsen Twins are really not famous anymore. But the best part is, they don't really care, and considering the fact that the two have never had social media accounts and haven't dabbled in the entertainment industry since their child stardom, they have left the door wide open for their sister Elizabeth to come into the spotlight. I think if anything, the media needs to realize the Olsen Twins aren't famous anymore, so that Elizabeth doesn't have to answer any more questions about being related to them.
And at number 10, Bow Wow. Bow Wow made a name for himself back when he was much younger and referred to himself as Lil Bow Wow. But now that he's older and losing relevancy fast, he's resorted to lying to look cool. And he's definitely posted some social media mistakes over the years. One was when he edited a photo of the original Death Row Records lineup from 1996 and included his face in it, which people called out for being photoshopped. Then he tried to brag about the fact that he was on a private jet, but his followers called that out for being fake too. And that's just the tip of the iceberg of people calling him out for fake stuff. And since his last acting and music successes were well over a decade ago, he's scraping the barrel to see what people will still watch. But it seems that Bow Wow is well aware of his sliding success, and even tweeted and then deleted, quote, "I'ma quit all this and downsize my home, sell everything, and go to work at GameStop," back in 2018. Since then, it looks like he's taken to YouTube and is having pretty decent success, so I guess we'll see if it sticks. In at number 9, Nicole Scherzinger. Nicole Scherzinger was the breakout star from the girl group, the Pussycat Dolls. And we found out later that she was the star because she was the only one in the group that actually sang anything. Yeah, like that's true. I didn't realize that. Like if you look in the credits, like it's literally her doing the main and the background vocals. Crazy. But after the group fell apart, she did her best to go solo, but her solo albums were not as successful as she'd hoped. After a lull in the biz, she became a judge on the X Factor UK, but allegedly she was fired in 2017. But she did have success as Grisabella in Cats on Broadway, but was disappointed when she wasn't considered for the movie remake. Although now I'm sure she was glad she wasn't included in that, disaster. Now she holds a guest spot on the Sidemen's YouTube original series, The Sidemen Show, and she appeared in a David Dobrik vlog, which is, quite a step down from where she once was. Of course, being in a David Dobrik vlog is iconic and amazing, but little lower than what she was before. In at number 8, Cody Simpson. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, the last time I cared at all about Cody Simpson was right after I learned that he was dating Miley Cyrus. But when they broke up, I went right back into not caring. In 2010, Cody was on fire and he was basically the Walmart Justin Bieber, but still very, very successful. But after he abruptly left his record label, he started touring with an old school rock band, enrolled at UCLA Film School, and started modeling too. But at about this time, he started to go into relative obscurity, and everyone just kind of started to forget about him. That is until Miley Cyrus rebounded with Cody and made him relevant again for the about a year or so that they were dating. Since 2019, he's released tons of music, so maybe his comeback will be happening any day now.
And at number 7, Aly and Aj. If any of you guys are around my age, then you definitely know who Aly and Aj are. I personally grew up with them on the Disney Channel, and I still know the words to some of their hit songs. The sisters actually had the most successful music career of any Disney star, and most impressively, They actually wrote all their own music too. Their biggest hit, Potential Breakup Song, was so huge that most of you probably know it. But sadly, after that massive hit, they decided to leave the Disney machine and was never able to reach the heights of their past success again. The girls struggled so much at one point, they rebranded themselves as 78 Violet. But they decided to come back recently as Aly and Aj again, and even released a Potential Breakup Song explicit version to try and recapture some of their old fan base. The girls are honestly making phenomenal music, and I wish them all the success in the world, but sadly, they just aren't that famous anymore.
And at number 6, Kevin Jonas. Any member of the Jonas Brothers will always be a big deal, especially for girls like me that grew up with them. But for Kevin, it's sad to say he was kind of the odd one out in terms of the group. Kevin was the first of his brothers to get married, have kids, and settle down out of the spotlight, with rumors circulating that he was the one that pushed for the band to split up in 2013. But right after the split, him and his new wife Danielle decided to try the reality TV route, and they started a show, Married to Jonas, which only lasted 2 seasons. After his failed stint on his own, his family moved back to suburbia, and he started a contracting business in New Jersey. But with a name like Jonas, you can never be out of the spotlight for too long. So him and his wife still appear at charity events and pose for promotional materials. However, the band came back in 2018, and although they had tons of excitement in the beginning, it seems to have worn off, and all the brothers are just settling down now. And honestly, at this point, I don't even think Kevin really wants fame anymore, so I mean, good for him for getting out of that then.
Halfway through at number 5, Joe Exotic. Netflix's Tiger King documentary came out just as quarantine started, so naturally, as everyone was bored in the house and in-house bored, people gravitated to this new addition, and it became a hit very quickly. Joe Exotic rose to fame, and he and his personality became something of a meme. But like most fads do, it started to fade. Sure, we've seen Joe's name pop up in the news here and there, but it's really just him trying to stay relevant while behind bars. As 2021 rolls around, people are going to completely forget about Joe Exotic and move on to the next fad as it comes around. He was funny and popular at the beginning because his character was so unusual, but when people really got to thinking about the wrong he's done, people really just started to hate him, and now he's no longer trending.
And at number 4, Heidi Montag. Spencer Pratt and Heidi Montag got their stardom from The Hills, and even though they dished out their dirty laundry for a paycheck, they don't regret it. The couple then went through tons of ventures to make some money off their name and fame, like writing a book and being in any reality TV show possible. Even though the couple admitted they squandered their money as fast as they get it. In 2018, MTV rebooted The Hills, and the couple felt like this was gonna be their ultimate comeback. But like with most reboots, the hype quickly faded and the show was a flop.
And at number 3, Tory Lanez. Tory Lanez rose to mainstream attention because of his hit song Say It in 2015. And he became a household name after, but only had a number of hits since. And it seems that the only reason he's come back into the spotlight is because of the unfortunate incident that took place between him and Megan Thee Stallion in 2020, which we still don't know the full story about. And to me, it seems that unless Tory is found innocent, he's gonna fall back into obscurity as well as getting some jail time.
And at number 2, Brenda Song. I will never not see Brenda Song as London Tipton because that show was just too big of a part of my life for me to ever think of any of the characters as anything different. And of course, being in any Disney project like that is gonna catapult you to fame, which is exactly what it did for Brenda. But after the show ended, the acting roles didn't really come as often for her, and the only notable role she was in was a small part in The Social Network, which, fun fact, is one of my favorite movies of all time. She also is known for dating some interesting men, going from Miley Cyrus's brother Trace to Macaulay Culkin. And even though Culkin is a massive star that will always be a notable Hollywood name, especially around Christmas, it really hasn't helped bolster her fame much. And finally at number 1, Rita Ora. Rita Ora was once named the most irrelevant pop star of all time. Well, in one article she was. She's kind of a funny person in the sense that she's famous and the Daily Mail writes about her all the time, but no one really knows why she's famous. A lot of people think she was a pop star, but she really wasn't, and she hasn't even released all that much music. And how she landed her spot on the X Factor, no one will really ever know. And she also manages to get invited to very high-class events, like award shows and even the Met Gala. The most notable thing she's done outside of her lackluster music is acting in the 50 Shades franchise and appearing on America's Next Top Model. I guess only time will tell where her career takes her next.
Starting us off at number 10, Kanye West. Kanye is on this list because of the shenanigans he's gotten into this year. Between his presidential campaign, his Twitter sprees, and now his most recent stunt with tweeting out his music contracts and peeing on his Grammy, Kanye is something else. But I think that next year, Kanye Kanye's reign of fame will come to an end because of his recent contract stunt. What he's done by releasing the images of all his contracts is incredibly illegal. He's breaking every NDA in the books, he's violating everything in those contracts, and it's getting messy. I'm guessing that this is gonna end up being a huge legal battle, and I think Kanye knows this is what's going to happen too, because he even tweeted out a piece of merch that said "Kim is my lawyer," basically showing that he's ready for this fight. And although I applaud him for going after the rights to his music, this may have just cost him his whole career. The rights to his masters are going to cost a lot of money, and so he's going to have a lot of money put aside for this. However, Kanye is also going in for the fight of his life, trying to get these rights as well as fighting his breach of contract following his release of the images of his contracts. He's not gonna have much money after this, and the legal fees, because although he says that Kim is his lawyer, she's not really a lawyer yet. I'm guessing after the legal fees and whatnot, he's not gonna have the money to buy back his music and will have to sign another label to make more music. But after this stunt, I don't think anyone's going to want to risk taking a chance on Kanye, and therefore he will lose his career and subsequently his fame. At number 9, Shane Dawson. Okay, now moving on to YouTuber Shane Dawson. Shane has been on the receiving end of a lot of backlash in the past and also this year. His career has been pretty rocky for years because of a number of scandals, but following the backlash of this year specifically, I think this might be the end of Shane's fame. Shane has 21 million subscribers, and he saw a big jump in popularity in recent years with his focus on more lengthy and highly produced documentary series, but this year, most of the hard work came undone. He was cancelled a lot this year and had to issue some apologies along the way, but I think that this might be the end of an era. Following the rise in popularity of the Black Lives Matter movement and Shane's cancellation for his racist past, there's been an apparent shift in society and people have become more vigilant of discrimination amongst other things. So were Shane to come back onto the platform and try to make his videos again, I don't think he'll be met with the same praise as before since he's lost quite a bit of support. He may very well pull a Jenna Marbles and leave the platform and subsequently fade from the internet. In at 8, Ellen DeGeneres. This one is kind of obvious, but we're gonna talk about her anyway. You've no doubt heard of Ellen's tumultuous year and the long list of allegations against her. Now, although her show hasn't been cancelled and no real action has been taken against Ellen, that doesn't necessarily mean she's off the hook. Throughout this whole year, we've seen people come out of the woodworks to talk about Ellen and bring about more controversies, and really they've just painted a pretty bad picture of her. So going into next year, she's probably not gonna be carrying much fame with her. She now has a reputation of being mean and whatnot, so I doubt that people will really want to work with her after this. Things for her have been slowly falling apart this year, so next year I do believe that we will see the end of the Ellen Show and a toast.
And at number 7, Frankie J. Grande. I kind of feel bad for Frankie because after all, he's living in the gigantic shadow of his younger sister, Ariana Grande. But it seems that being Ariana's brother has kind of become like his shtick to get into the limelight. But unlike his sister, Frankie hasn't really had much success with his ventures. And because of this, he takes practically any opportunity that's handed to him. And he's been on reality TV probably more than anyone in history. He's also well known for being one of the most hated people from Big Brother, using his relation to Ariana to stay in the house. And it's a tough spot. Like, I get he can't just do a normal job because that could put him in danger and really just not be a good look for the family in some ways. But he doesn't have much going for him other than, you know, that familial connection. So I'm hoping he gets picked up for something good soon.
In at 6, Tyra Banks. Supermodel Tyra Banks has come under fire this year for her show America's Next Top Model. Fans came back to rip her apart for perpetuating toxicity, sexism, racism, and unhealthy body image in the early years of the show. Though Tyra has turned around advocating for inclusivity and acceptance in the modeling industry in recent years, it's her past actions that people are focusing on. Tyra used to be one of the biggest and most famous models in the world, but over the years her fame has begun to fade into obscurity, and with the recent backlash of ANTM, that's really just digging her career deeper and deeper into the ground. Before the pandemic hit, Tyra was set to launch a model-esque theme park where you could be a supermodel for the day. Think Wanna-Do City, but fashion. But so far there's been no launch. In recent years, Tyra has also tried launching a beauty line, but that failed. And her model land thing just isn't really picking up either. Now she's a host on Dancing with the Stars, and that shows kind of where careers go to die. No offense to Tyra, like she was my queen queen growing up, but I don't think that her fame will be hanging on for very much longer after this year.
Halfway at number 5, Jason Derulo. Jason Derulo is interesting because he comes into mainstream attention every few years, but fades just as fast. Jason was one of the biggest stars of the 2000s, and I'm sure you all know his signature opening line, Jason Derulo. Sorry, you know I had to. But after his rise, he slowly started to fade. And I'm sure none of you have even thought about Jason Derulo since. However, he recently came back into mainstream attention with his focus on TikTok. He was really the first mainstream celebrity to adopt TikTok and use it to become relevant again. And it actually worked. His newest single, Savage Love, landed Derulo his first top 10 hit on the Billboard Hot 100 since 2015. And Jason knows what he's doing. He said in one interview, quote, "It's important to reinvent yourself as much as possible. Otherwise people just get tired of it. I've tried everything under the sun at least 3 times. And although I respect his hustle on TikTok, it seems like he's fighting for relevancy with teenage TikTok stars.
In at 4, Leah Michele. Leah is another one of those stars who's been called out for their past unpleasant behavior. Earlier this year, fellow Glee castmates Samantha Marie Ware called Leah Michele out for making her time on the show a living hell. Samantha accused Leah of bullying and just being an all-around unpleasant person to work with. With her microaggressions and bad attitude, Leah was also faced with scrutiny from other people that she worked with like Keith Powell, Heather Morris, and Gerard Canonico. Now following their expose of Leah, the actress is now being seen negatively by the entertainment industry. I think that as a result we're going to see a similar, if not same, pattern as Ellen, where people don't really want to work with her and ultimately will fade from the spotlight.
In at number 3, Angus T. Jones. Angus T. Jones was a child star that grew into adulthood while he was shooting the hit show 2.5 Men. But when he started to get older, he started to get major angst for showbiz and turned against his career. He even went so far to tell people to not watch his show or TV in general, which, you know, isn't a smart thing for an actor to do. Jones ended up quitting the hit show in 2013 to attend college, but only a few days later he wanted back in on the action once he was asked to make a cameo in the 2.5 Men finale. He worked at an events company for some time, then got cast in a web show, and his horizons really don't look so great now.
Coming in at number 2, Amber Heard. Oh boy, Amber Heard is right up there with Ellen as public enemies of 2020. Amber is now getting tons of backlash after people learn the truth about her relationship with Johnny Depp. As their defamation trial continues to unfold, more and more people are hating Amber for her treatment of her ex-husband. Following the backlash, her career has taken a hit. There's been a petition going around to remove her from the Aquaman sequel, and she's apparently been forced to star in indie films instead of big Hollywood productions because her fame and reputation have taken such a big hit. This new downfall is certainly going to continue as the trial isn't over yet, and I'm sure there's still a lot more to uncover about the actress. But just seeing her career be hit so hard already kind of shows that she may very well lose her fame in the coming years. When she pegged the abuse on Johnny, his reputation fell apart, and now that this dynamic is being shifted onto Amber, we're seeing the same thing happen again. The only difference here is that Johnny was able to clear his name, and Amber might not be able to clear hers. Finally coming in at number 1, Carole Baskin. Carole Baskin became an overnight sensation following the release of the Tiger King documentary in March. Unlike Joe Exotic, she's been able to hold on to her fame just a little bit longer than he has, but I'm still predicting that she will lose her fame in the coming year. Yeah, sure, she's on Dancing with the Stars and that's just fueling her fame for now, but what's gonna happen when the show's over? So far her fame has been coming in waves. First it was the rise of the documentary, then things died down with its hype, then she came back up again when she was announced to be on Dancing with the Stars, but when she leaves she's just gonna fade back into obscurity. And now that this year is coming to a close, thank God, there's really nothing else left to keep her fame afloat. I think she's just gonna end up going back to being an animal activist and live out her days covering up the murder of her husband, who we all know was fed to the tigers.